Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Any Given Day podcast. I'm Zach. That's Hunter. And today we're going to be doing our Week 11 preview. So it's going to be exciting. Let's get right into it.
Yeah.
So, what's first on the list here today? I believe you got a question for me?
I got some trivia for you, buddy.
Okay.
So, CFP era. Now, it's rather quote-unquote recent, right? Since 2014, I think, was the first time it happened. Now, because of that, over these years, you have had a select amount of teams be ranked number one in the CFP committee's eyes, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, there have been 7 teams overall over this entire time frame ranked number one. Can you name them all?
Okay. What was the first year of the CFP? 2014?
2014, I think.
2016. Either way. Alabama, definitely.
Ding. You got one.
This one. Georgia.
Yep.
Tennessee.
Yes.
Ohio State.
Yep.
It's 4. And you said there were 6?
7.
7. So there's 3 more. Has Michigan ever been ranked 1?
No, they have not.
Really? Okay. Oregon?
No.
Florida State?
Nope.
You
got 3. Right? 2 of them are in
4.
the same conference.
There's 3s, and 2 of them are in the same conference.
Yes. Okay.
Clemson?
Yep.
I don't know how I forgot about Clemson.
I don't know either.
They're in the same conference. I don't think there's anybody else in the ACC that's been ranked.
No, there has not.
Clemson. So it's not the Big Ten, because if it's not Michigan, it's not been Penn State either, and there's nobody else in the Big Ten. Big 12. Oklahoma?
No.
Texas?
Nope. It's not
Really?
Big 12.
It's not the Big 12. It's Pac-12. Washington?
No. It's not the Pac-12.
It's the SEC?
Yes.
Texas A&M?
No. Kind of sort of the same color scheme.
Kind of, sort of.
You're not going to get this one, and I know you're not.
And it's not Alabama, obviously. I've already said Alabama. I've already said Georgia.
I'll give you a hint.
There's 2 more in the SEC?
Yes. They're both in the West.
They're both in the West?
Both in the West.
Mississippi State.
Yes.
I know it's Mississippi. Yeah, that's right. Mississippi State.
I'm surprised you haven't had the other one.
It's LSU.
Yes. Why didn't you go for the easy one first?
I don't know. I forgot about LSU.
I was fixing to give you the hint. Clown.
I forgot about LSU and Clemson for some reason. I forgot they existed.
Dak Prescott, baby.
Didn't Mississippi State get ranked 1 after they beat like Alabama or something?
Yeah, it was something like that. While Mullen was still there.
Yeesh.
Yeah, you're telling me, buddy.
Whoops. Well, SEC rules college football apparently, according to the College Football Playoff Committee.
Yep.
That's what 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 out of the 7 teams that have been ranked number 1.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeesh. I'm surprised Michigan's never been ranked number 1.
If they had a stronger schedule this year, it would have been 8.
Yeah, this year they could have. If they had beaten some people, they would have been ahead of Georgia, probably. All right. Well, that was fun.
Yeah.
Jesus. Moving on. Obviously, some news came out. Recording came out, anyways. I believe today. Of Lane Kiffin talking to one of his players. I wish I'd written down.
DeSantos Rollins.
Thank you, DeSantos Rollins. Obviously he got kicked off the team. And there was recording of Lane Kiffin telling him that very aggressively.
Very aggressively.
And now the player is filing a lawsuit against Ole Miss for $40 million for it. I mean, listen. Lane Kiffin was not wrong in kicking him off the team. He deserved to be kicked off the team. You can't, I mean, in the real world, right? If I don't show up to my job with no communication to my bosses for 2-3 weeks, I'm getting fired.
Yep.
Like, if I just show up 2 weeks later, 3 weeks later, having not said anything to them, and I just disappear for 2-3 weeks, I'm getting fired.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So it's just how the real world works. Wow, words are hard.
Apparently.
But in that same sentence, in my opinion, you can also say this to this kid without the way you can say this in a way that Lane Kiffin did not. There's a nice way to say this, and Lane Kiffin did not take the nice way to say that. He was very aggressive, and called him some very mean words that I'm not allowed to say on this podcast.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
I mean, like I said, it's not wrong. He deserved to be kicked off the team. I know we're in this state in the world where mental health is king, and you know you're supposed to be able to just take mental health days, but I can't take a mental health day from work. I mean, if I'm having a bad day, I got to get over it and go into work. So like, I get it. That's this. The world's in this place where you're supposed to be able to just, I'm having a bad day, so I'm just not going to work. But you can't just disappear for 2 weeks without saying anything when the guy that is your boss is telling you, hey, come have a meeting with me so we can figure this out, and you just don't even bother responding.
Yeah.
It's being way overblown. I mean, obviously Kiffin could have handled it better, but he did the right thing in the end. So, I mean, what are your thoughts on it?
Counterpoint. I don't think Kiffin knew he was being recorded, obviously, right?
Oh, no, he had no clue.
So that's another thing right there. Rollins is still has his scholarship. He's been kicked from the team, but he still has his scholarship right now. So things could have been a lot worse for him. He's still getting paid to go to school right now. So my whole thing is, it's like you said, I go and take 2 weeks off without letting anyone know for a mental health break, and I'm not diminishing mental health. Trust me.
No. Yeah.
A very dear friend of mine that I grew up with suffered from that stuff, and we lost him, and it sucks. So I will always advocate for that. But this kid just up and leaves for 2 weeks after he's told, oh, hey, we don't want you on the defensive side of the ball anymore. We want you on the offensive side, and we want you on the scout team. So instead of going and working his way back, and now granted, he also claims that the coaches didn't want him there anymore, and who knows, that may have been true, right? But,
right.
And I also get the fact that these collegiate athletes, first off, they get the honor and privilege of getting to play college sports, their sport at the next level. But with that privilege and honor comes a lot of pressure, and especially in today's world with Twitter or X or whatever it's called, Facebook, all these platforms, right? It's a certain amount of pressure that I cannot understand. I was a bench warmer at the high school level, but it's still, you don't just disappear for 2 weeks without, when you are being told by your coach, hey, I want to meet with you before this happens, right? And then you ignore that, and then a few days later you get told by one of the mental health specialists they have there, hey, the coach wants to see you. I recommend you go there, and you still blow it off. And then you come in 2 weeks later, and you start recording on your phone before you even get in there. I'm sorry, it smells like a setup to me. And
Yes.
I hate to be that way. I hate to be that way and think that. But with the way the world is and how some people are nowadays, I'm not looking past it. Maybe he did need that mental health break, but you don't just blatantly ignore the head coach. Could Kiffin have handled it better? Maybe, but by that point, he'd been blown off by this kid multiple times, and the kid went radio silent for 2 weeks. And Kiffin is handling this in a closed door situation. Trust me when I say I've heard coaches say worse during practices out on open fields. It could have been worse. But I think the lawsuit's going to get dismissed. I don't think he wins the lawsuit. And the sad thing is, if he really did need the break for the mental health, just go and talk to your coach beforehand, man. Really? That's all I can ask. Like, you do that, then I'm sure Kiffin would have been like, okay, here's what we'll do. We'll give you these few weeks off. We'll give you this week off, and you'll go to the specialist like 2 or 3 times this next week, and that's all we'll ask of you. And if you still think you need some more time off, come and talk with me. Maybe he handles it like that. Maybe he doesn't. I don't know, but we'll never know because the kid just up and disappeared for two weeks. So I'm sorry. I get it, but it's frustrating for me in the sense if he is just using that as a crutch / excuse. Right. So,
I mean, let me be clear. I know I didn't say I agree. Mental health is a real issue, and it should be taken seriously. I want to clear that up right now. I don't want it to be any confusion. It is very serious, and if you are struggling with that, reach out to somebody, find some sort of help, talk to somebody. It is a very serious issue. Don't just hold on to it. But, like you said, we don't know all the details. We don't know how this kid's really feeling. We don't know what's going on in his mind or in his heart, right? So, obviously, you hope it was something real, and he's not just using this as an excuse because that's the last thing people actually struggling with it need. But we don't know, so we're not here to accuse anybody of that. But like you said, I mean, it's just one of those. He's lucky Mississippi is a one-party consent state, to where he can go in there and record and it be used. Because if it wasn't, and Kiffin didn't know he was being recorded, then he could get sued. So, and he still could get sued for defamation, really.
And he possibly, very possibly.
I doubt the university or Kiffin pursues that because it is what it is.
No, they're just going to get the lawsuit dismissed.
They've already cut ties with the guy at this point. I mean, like you said, he's lucky he's still got a scholarship. He's still got a scholarship, and his school's still getting paid for. They could have pulled everything and said good luck.
It just, it just like you go on this thing as soon as you get moved over to a different side of the ball. Like,
it just seems so weird.
I'm sorry, but
weird
so timing. Weird. Like I said, not if it was legit, not downplaying it, but it doesn't add up to me.
I agree.
Just frustrating, man.
Moving on to our first game of the week to get on a happier note. Happy for Oregon, anyways. Happy for us and happier for Oregon, at the very least. USC at Oregon. Line on this is Oregon by 16.5. Over under 73.5. What was the score of the Oregon-Washington game? I mean, the USC-Washington game? It was high.
Oh, that was
like 54 to... yeah,
52-42, I think?
And Washington...
or was it 42-32?
Washington scored 50.
Yes, yeah. They put up half a century on it.
With that being said, Oregon's offense is probably not as good as Washington's, but definitely on that level.
I was actually looking at it. and it was like I think it was like an offensive explosive rate or something like that. And Oregon's like
Really?
top 2 in the
Well,
country.
in explosive plays, yeah.
Yeah. Washington, I think, if I remember correctly, was behind them. It's insane, right? So
Yeah.
Oregon, they've got an
yes.
offense, man.
Yeah, I'm not downplaying that. Oregon has a very good offense. I think Washington's might overall be a little bit better, but Oregon is no slouch by any means, and their defense is significantly better than Washington's defense. So,
Oh yes,
I mean,
yes.
now we don't need to
Yeah,
downplay the fact that USC has new defensive coordinators, obviously. Now, that can work two ways. Obviously, it could be really good and they step up and this USC defense looks like a defense. Or they changed nothing because it's 1 week and it wasn't even really 1 week. I mean, it's not like they can change a whole defensive scheme in a week and have these players learn the plays. I don't think they're going to change much, at least this week. So I think it's going to be more of the same.
Are you picking first this one or me?
Yes, I'm picking first in this one. Yes. Let's discuss that. We forgot to discuss that before this game. Obviously, last week, we decided that, obviously, you guys know we're doing the picks, and whoever has the worst record picks last for the games. Now we are tied. So, with that being said, we are going to alternate picks if we're tied. We'll see if we're still tied after this week. That would be a miracle. But we'll see. So, I'll pick first for this first game, and I am picking Oregon.
Before I pick, I do want to touch up on the coordinator things as well. Brian Odom, if I remember correctly, I think he was a coordinator over at Arkansas. And we already talked about possible replacements for the offseason and all that. So, like, we're not really going to get too deep into that. But it's like you said, maybe having Sean Newell and Brian Odom as, like, the joint DCs for the rest of the season will kind of light something and invigorate this defense in a way. Or it could just be, like, a full-on fold. Like, for the rest of the year, they're just done. I don't really think it matters one way or the other because I'm with you. Oregon wins this one. I don't know if they cover just because if it gets into a shootout, maybe not. Dan Lanning's got experience with dealing with Lincoln Riley's offense before, but that Rose Bowl where he was one of the was he a defense coordinator that year? No, that was I think that was Mel Tucker's last year.
Well, he was on the staff, so
yeah, Lanning was on the staff, so he knows how to handle this offense. So Oregon
by 1,000.
Oregon.
All right.
Let's not get too crazy now. Next game is Auburn at Arkansas. So, the line on this one is Arkansas is favored by 3, which I think is honestly fair. You're coming off a huge win for them at Gainesville last week, the first time their program's ever won in the Swamp. They're saying over-under is going to be 48.5 for this one, and I could see it if they come out and they play like they did last week. Arkansas all the way. If not, though, this could be a fight, and I don't know if I know I have to pick first this time. And it's so weird, right? Because if they go and do this, if Arkansas wins, they have an SEC win streak all of a sudden when they were just like flailing out of nowhere a week or two ago. To do that, though, they have to beat the Auburn Tigers, the streaking Tigers. And I don't know if they do that. Oh, man. I feel like this pick is going to decide the week. I really do. Rocket Sanders is back. I'll live and die by it. Woo Pig Suey. I'm going with the Pitmaster and Arkansas to win.
Now, I've been doing some research about money lines, right? Now, Arkansas -3.
Oh, no.
Generally, -3, a 3-point swing is home field advantage, right? Obviously, Auburn and Arkansas, that is why the line is Arkansas -3, because Vegas basically views these teams as the same. They're basically the same team, same caliber team, but because it's at Arkansas, they're giving Arkansas the points, right? Obviously, over-under, like you said, 48.5. I could see both these teams scoring 24. I could see like a 27-24 final.
Mm-hmm.
Arkansas looked really good without Dan Enos.
Yes.
But Florida's awful.
They beat Tennessee, though. I think I'd pick Tennessee to beat Auburn, though.
Yeah.
Hmm? Yeah?
I don't know. Auburn's been... Hugh Freeze is turning Auburn into something. And
really, he is. That's why I was hesitant when I did that, but I think they're going to be riding the high to this win. If it was at Auburn, I would have picked Auburn hands down.
I mean, these teams are just so similar. I mean, obviously Arkansas's got the more talented quarterback. Arguably the more talented running back.
I would say they do have the better running back solely because they don't have Tank Bigsby anymore.
Yeah, I'm picking Arky. It just seems like such a toss-up game. Like,
yeah,
they're just such similar teams. It just seems like having KJ Jefferson, who actually had a good game for the first time, and God, I don't know when. And Rocket Sanders coming back. It just seems like this team's going to be riding that high after beating Florida last week. I just think Arky's going to win this one.
Yeah.
All right. Moving on to our next game, Tennessee at Missouri. Line's Tennessee by 1. Over under 58.5.
Yeah. Tennessee's 13th, so Mizzou's 14th in the country.
This could be an upset if Mizzou wins.
Top 15 match? Yeah, technically.
I mean, Missouri's the more balanced team, right? They have much better defense than Tennessee, and they have arguably about the same offense. If Missouri might have a little bit better of an offense, if Luther Burden isn't being locked up by one of the best cornerbacks in the SEC. So, thought I'd throw that little jab in there.
I want my 3 on these 3.
Thought I'd throw that little jab in there. I mean,
of course.
It's another toss-up game to me. I mean, Missouri's really good. Tennessee's been playing better. Other than that ugly loss to Florida, you expect them to lose to Alabama. I mean, Missouri, obviously, their 2 losses have been to LSU and Georgia, 2 very good teams in the SEC. So, I mean, it's not like it's been...
Yes.
Obviously, Tennessee has the worst loss between the 2.
Yes.
And it's... Yeah.
Florida.
And it's at Missouri. And it's one of those weird places. Strange
things happen in Como. 3:30 kickoff too. Those fans gonna have a bit of time to go and drink. Granted, it'll be like a 2:30 kickoff local time, but still.
Okay, I have my pick, and I have a reason, and it's gonna be a weird reason, but I have a reason. I think Tennessee
I'm
is going to win
intrigued.
this game because they're going to be so hyped up to play Georgia next week that they want to win this game so they have a shot to win the East if Georgia loses to Ole Miss. So I think they're going to be playing their best game of the year this week, and I think they win, probably by a field goal.
Oof. Okay. I hadn't thought about that, actually. They will be going on before Georgia gets to play, so for all intents and purposes, they'll be playing their butts off to go and just have a shot to get there. Because if something happens and Georgia loses to Ole Miss, they'll have a shot. Neyland will be fired up beyond all get out. If you hadn't said that, if you had not said that, this was going to be an easy pick for me.
It's a thought process. I mean, it's there. It's a logical thought process.
Probably one of the most logical thought processes we have had on the show so far. Am I wrong? Here's my thought process. Mizzou might have lost last week. And I know we don't really care that much for these, but they had one heck of a moral victory. A few things go their way in that game.
They could walk out winners.
They would have pulled the upset in Athens. I do partially believe that. I think Mizzou could be riding a high themselves. Like, hey, this is our year. They're fighting to do their best to get into as good of a bowl game as possible.
Yeah.
You know? And one could make an argument that if this was a 12-team format that we're going to have, they'd still be fighting for a spot to get into that.
Yes.
I mean, this game would have huge implications if it was happening next year.
Oh, absolutely it would.
Because these are two fringe teams. In theory. Yeah, in theory. Actually, wait. How does that work again? Highest rated champions get an automatic bye. Yeah, maybe. They'd be fighting for a spot. I do believe that. But oh man, if you hadn't said that, I would have. We're literally spending this time going and working through my thought process on this.
That's what I did.
Let's see. Let me check the rest of the games real quick. See. Here's the thing. I think if we defer on this one, we match on the others. I do believe that.
Have we deferred on any? Okay.
No. We both picked Arkansas. We both picked Oregon. We'll get into the other games, but I don't think we defer on that many here. If any at all. So I either risk it and take a 1-point lead, or I risk it and I take a 1-point loss on this one. I'll risk it. I think Drinks got them fired up. I think they're going to be playing hard. You know what? Screw it. I'll ride with you with Tennessee. Changing my mind. Tennessee.
All right.
Jeez, you made me think. You made me backtrack. I went into that one Mizzou all the way, and then you with logic.
It's called mind games.
Yeah, apparently.
Next up, number 18 Utah at number 5 Washington. I believe you had some history on this series that you'd like to bring up.
Yeah, so they're both in the Pac-12, in the Pac-12's final year. But Utah hasn't always been was not a founding member of the Pac-12. So this series is actually relatively young, only 15 games all time. In fact, Washington leads the series all time, 13-2. But here's the kicker. Both of Utah's 2 wins happened up in Washington at Husky Stadium. I would argue to say that Utah has probably the second best defense in the conference behind Oregon. But I think Washington's still going to win this. Some way, somehow. They're 9.5 point favorite. It's at Washington. Those fans are going to be rowdy because they got a shot to make it into the playoffs again. So, yeah, I could see a 36 to or 34-22 win or something like that. So there's my pick.
I mean, yeah, Utah does have one of the best defenses in the Pac-12, but you saw what Washington did to Oregon, who has the best defense in the Pac-12. And Utah definitely doesn't have Oregon's offense to keep up with Washington's offense. And I think that's the big kicker, is Utah just doesn't have an offense to keep up with a Washington or an Oregon. So,
ding.
With that being said, it's got to be Washington. They haven't shown me anything to think they'd lose to a Utah. I mean, I could see them losing to Oregon again in a rematch. That's about the only game I see Washington losing, is if they get a rematch in the Pac-12 championship against Oregon. So, I am picking Washington to win this football game. Next up, Georgia Tech at Clemson. Now, I know on face value, this seems like a game that you would wonder, why are we picking this, right? But they are closer than you think, right? They're both at the exact same record. Although Tech has been better in conference, which is, wow. Never thought I'd say that. Not in recent years. Tech is 4-2 in conference. Clemson is 2-4 in conference.
Yeah.
And I believe you have some rivalry history on this one too.
Yeah, buckle up, folks. There's a few rivalry games this year or this week. Just wait till hate week, people. So this one dates back all the way to 1898 when it was played the first time. There were certain points where it was played annually for a while, and then they start playing again. I think one of the more contentious moments actually happened pretty early on. 1904, Tech went and gave Clemson's then coach, John Heisman, an offer of a $450 raise, which was about a 25% raise of his current salary. And, give and take, inflation is about 14 and a half grand, maybe closer to 15 grand in today's money. So it was a pretty decent amount of change back then. So all things considered, right? So I think that, from what I can tell, that was like one of the more contentious things that has happened. Obviously, John Heisman is who the Heisman Trophy is named after. Tech leads this all-time series, 50-35-2. Clemson's currently on an 8-game win streak. The longest win streak in the series history is 15 games by Tech. Relatively speaking, since the series went back to every year in about 83, it's been rather competitive. Clemson has a slight lead because of the current streak they're on right now, but typically you'll see a bit of a streak by one team and then another streak and so on and so forth. So it's definitely interesting, right? With the way Haynes King has looked, he's looked actually really good in that Tech offense, surprisingly. And Klubnik has stepped up when needed, we'll say, for Clemson. it's weird. I don't really know looking at this who to pick. What are your thoughts?
It's tough, right? Clemson's had an awful year this year. Very un-Clemson-like. Until
ask Tyler.
Last week. And they looked like Clemson of old against Notre Dame. Now, is Notre Dame just bad? Entirely possible. I mean, they played Ohio State close, but Ohio State, who is still ranked number 1 for some reason, has not looked great either, even though they do have the best resume, which is why they're still ranked number 1, because resume is what matters. So,
different year, same Notre Dame.
Every year. So, I mean, Tech destroyed Virginia last week. Like, destroyed them.
Mm-hmm.
But it's Virginia.
And they're going to be at Clemson this week.
It's at Clemson. It's not at home. But Tech has looked scary. Tech has been really good. And Clemson's going to be riding a high going into this game. And it is Death Valley. And they don't usually lose in Death Valley. Fake Death Valley anyways.
Yeah.
But is Clemson going to be on too much of a high, thinking they're hot stuff after throttling a bad Notre Dame team?
Oh, sorry, I can't help but laugh at that. After the season they've had, after Tyler from Spartanburg called in, there ain't no way they're riding a high after beating Notre Dame.
Ranked Notre Dame. They're riding a high after beating ranked Notre Dame. They're going to go in here and go, we're going to wallop Tech. And they will be wrong because Georgia Tech is going to come in there and take down Clemson in Death Valley. Georgia Tech is winning. That is my pick.
I'm shocked.
You should be. I'm shocked.
Like, So the line's 14.5.
They're wrong.
Let me put it this way. It was 14.5 when I looked a few days ago. What's the current line?
It is 15.
15? That's even worse.
My secret weapon says it's a 9-point game.
Look, I get it. And trust me, as much as I would love to have Tech win this one and win their next game and come in with a really good record when Georgia has to go down to Atlanta, I guess, to play them, as fun as that would be, I can't. I can't in good conscience at Death Valley as a 14.5 point underdog pick Tech. I'm going Clemson. And to be fair, it doesn't hurt that I've got a few friends who are fans of Clemson, but that's neither here nor there. And
sounds like it's here.
Maybe a bit. Maybe a bit. But no, I'm picking Clemson. I'm actually shocked you picked Tech. I think Tech covers on the line.
I have a special place in my heart for Georgia Tech.
I do not think.
I have a special place in my heart for Georgia Tech.
I ain't got nothing but hate and vitriol.
My grandfather was a Georgia Tech fan. There's a special place in my heart for Georgia Tech. Unless they're playing Georgia.
I got family who are...
They're playing Georgia.
In which case it's burned.
If they're playing Georgia, it's clean old-fashioned hate.
I can't believe we're actually deferring on this one. I'm shocked. But yeah, sheesh.
I'm saying Tech's looks strong.
Yeah.
Clemson is not. Dabo's gonna Dabo.
Okay. Next game.
All right. Next game, Miami at number 4,
Sure.
Florida State.
So I
You
get
do.
first pick this time, right?
And I believe there's more rivalry news in history.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah. So this one, compared to a lot of historic rivalries, the ones that are over triple digits or close to that, right? So this one, all-time series, Miami leads this one 35-32. And this one has gotten a bit contentious, right? But the big moments in this rivalry were the late 80s through the 90s to the 2000s, right? Because that was typically the point in time where Bobby Bowden was at his prime and the U was at its prime, right? This game typically decided national championships, right? The national championship picture as a whole. There are 6 different games nicknamed wide, and then like 4 of them are wide right, and 2 of them are wide left, right? And all 6 of those games, Florida State lost on a last-second kick that went wide right or wide left. And it changed the complete and utter outcome of the entire national championship scene for that year. If 3 or 4 more of those kicks are made, Bobby Bowden has a lot more rings.
Yep.
Just saying, right? And he probably wouldn't have been forced out for Jimbo, of all people.
Are you implying that Miami is going to beat Florida State on a last-second kick?
No, I'm just saying, that's historically, that's how that game has kind of gone.
That would be so poetic.
It's at Tallahassee. Yeah. And it's more than just that. You even had the game in 89 where the mascot for the Hurricanes, Sebastian, the Ibis, he goes and gets arrested for trying to go and put out the fire at the center field that Chief Osceola put with a flaming spear. Ibis comes in dressed in a firefighter's hat and a yellow firefighter's jacket with a fire extinguisher to put it out. Some cops charge and tackle him to the ground, and in the ensuing incident, he ends up spraying one with a fire hydrant and is arrested. like there's history in these games. That you've got that. So you've got that. You've got the Miami Muff, where for once in this series history, Miami got screwed over on the last second kick, where the kicker never even made contact with the ball because the holder screwed up the hold. Before Miami joined the ACC, these two teams actually met in the Orange Bowl at one point. And I know for some people that'll be weird, right? But Miami hasn't always been in the ACC. They used to be a member of what is now the defunct Big East, which still exists for basketball. It just doesn't exist for football anymore. What a shame. Louisville used to be part of the Big East. A lot of people. I think West Virginia too, yeah. Yep. So, I look at this game and I don't see Miami going into Tallahassee, up to Tallahassee, and beating Miami. I think Miami. I don't think they cover. Their line the line that I got was 14.5. I don't know if that's still the case. I still think Florida State wins this though, and I think Florida State covers.
What time is this game?
Oh, ooh, that is a good one.
It is at 3:30.
I think Tallahassee's technically in the. I think they're an hour behind us, maybe.
The game is at 3:30.
3:30.
Yeah. I agree. I think it's gonna be much closer than 14.5. I'm looking at a 2-point win for Florida State. Mm-hmm. But I still think Florida State wins. It's just the talent. the talent that Florida State has is so much better than what Miami has. Not saying Miami can't ever get back to what they were, because they will get recruits in. It's Miami. Everybody wants to go to Miami. And they'll get recruits in, especially now that they're starting to win again and starting to have better seasons. I mean, they're not having a bad season. They're bowl eligible. They're 6-3 right now. They're going to be 6-4 after this week. But maybe. But yeah, I got Florida State winning this one. I think it'll be, like I said, much closer, but Florida State's winning.
Yeah, fair enough.
All right. Moving on to Game 7, number 3.
Where'd
It
the
didn't work. I clicked it. It didn't play. Whatever. Game 7, number 3 Michigan at number 10 Penn State. I have to pick first on this one, don't I?
Yep.
Okay. There's something going on with that line. Only being at 4.5. There's something that Vegas knows that we don't know. Will
Probably
Harbaugh be suspended for this game? I don't think so either.
It will have already come down.
Assume so. They gotta know something though, right? Now Penn State is a raucous environment.
This is the whiteout game.
Is it the whiteout game? Oof.
It is the whiteout game. But because they are affiliated with Fox and the whole Big Noon Kickoff, and Big Noon Kickoff is at the biggest game they think that week, it's going to be a noon kick. So I think it's a waste of the whiteout, and it's stupid.
But they'll get loud.
I really do think it's
fans
stupid.
Are crazy.
Yeah, but it's a different thing, right? So you got a noon kickoff for that kind of environment. It's just not the same as if it was a night game, and those students have had all this time to get lubed up, we'll say.
God, poor choice of words there.
Yeah, or loosened up.
There you go. Poor choice of words there.
Yeah. Look, I said lubed up because social lubricant. Okay.
Jesus. All right. I think this will be really close. Right? Penn State, really raucous environment, regardless of whether it's 12, whether it's at noon, which it'll be right at noon, local.
Waste
yes,
of
waste of a whiteout. But the whiteouts are still ridiculously loud, and Penn State's it's one of the loudest places to play at, regardless of what time it is. Obviously, Penn State falls short against Ohio State. Michigan's probably more talented than Ohio State is, overall, just talent-wise. But that game was at Ohio State, wasn't it? Penn State. Penn State's winning. Penn State.
Dadgum. Okay. If Penn State wins, everything gets thrown into chaos.
Yes, it does. And I would love
playoffs. Oh, me too. It would be awesome. Now I have to go and pick between joining you in hoping for absolute chaos or getting my 2-win lead back. Every part of me is saying that it could happen, that Penn State could pull the upset.
Come on, join the magical Leoplorodons.
If I don't join, I don't know, right? Every part of me is screaming that it could happen, but Michigan winning is more likely. Especially with all this crap going on outside. Some would say that it would be used as a distraction, but another part of me is like, it could very well be the sole thing that binds this team together in a full-blown FU mode. We're still here. It doesn't matter what you say. As much as I want that madness, right? Something you said sticks with me from earlier. That home field advantage is typically 3 points. The spread's 4.5. I'm sticking with Michigan. And now, don't get me wrong. Do not get me wrong. If I'm very confident in the Clemson pick, I'm very confident in that pick. But if Michigan does lose this one, Clemson wins and Michigan loses this one, I'm fine with being in a tie next week. Let me make that very clear, as long as Michigan would lose.
What are you going to do if Clemson and Michigan loses? Have a mental break?
I just might. Like, you might see me be the biggest Tech hater from here on out.
Nothing would make my life better than for Tech to beat Clemson and then lose to Georgia. It would be fantastic.
Oh, that would be amazing, but I don't think that'll happen. Like I said, I'm very confident in the Clemson pick. Now I'm starting to doubt the Michigan pick.
Nope, too bad. Nope, you already picked Michigan. Too bad.
I already picked Michigan? Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm just before you do the transition,
it's not working anyway.
Just let me say this. It's not fair. Just let me say this. If Michigan and Clemson both win, you ain't ever hearing the end of it. That's a promise.
Oh, I expect nothing less. I mean, let me let you in on a secret. I really do think Penn State could win. Huh?
Yes.
I really do think Penn State could win.
Yes.
I am not confident in Tech at all.
You're just like, chaos. I want the chaos.
Yeah. I'm not confident in my Tech pick at all. I think it'll be a close game, but I'm not confident in Clemson or Tech. I am confident in Penn State. So, chaos.
Fair enough. I'm confident in Clemson. You got me kind of like wiggling on the Michigan pick now.
You already picked Michigan. Moving on.
Yeah.
Moving on. Game 8. Our game of the week with SEC championship game implications. Number 9 Ole Miss at number 2 Georgia. Now Georgia's favored by 10.5. Over under is 58.5. What are your thoughts?
And so the first thought, and I want to throw a shout out to a guy by the name of Christian Kirby. He pulled this little stat out on his article for Dogs Daily. These teams actually played each other annually from 1966 all the way up to 2002, right? Since then, they've only played 6 times. So it's one of those things where it's not just that, but it's also been over 10 years since Ole Miss has been between the hedges.
2014, right? 13?
No, I think 11 or 12.
16. They lost in 16 to Ole Miss.
Yeah, but that was at Ole Miss.
It was at Ole Miss, wasn't it?
In Kirby's first year. I said specifically between the hedges.
It was at Ole Miss.
Yeah. So, anyways, I think when you look at this one, I think overall better team, better athletes, Georgia. So, I think it's an easy pick for Georgia. And before, like, I'm just going ahead and throwing my pick out there, right? I'm picking Georgia. I think a nighttime kickoff at Samford. Rowdy fans from a college game day being in town, just Nolan Smith being the new guest picker for game day. I do not see Ole Miss winning this one, right? And I hate it for Kiffin, but it's just I think Georgia has an overall better balanced team. Ole Miss has one heck of an offense, but and once again, another stat line from like Christian Kirby, Jonathan Williams, and our guy Brooks Austin. They pointed out something pretty noticeable. For those of you watching, go and check the splits home and away for Ole Miss's offense. It's almost, if not, a 10-point differential. They're 10 points better at home. But with the way they run that offense, if the crowd gets loud and starts causing false starts, which I think a true night game, a top 10 matchup at Sanford, that crowd's going to be ready. They're going to have all day to get socially lubed up. And so they're going to be drunk, obnoxious Georgia fans. Which, in some people's opinion, there ain't nothing finer in the land. So I'll pick Georgia. I think Ole Miss, I think it's a bad overall matchup between Georgia's offense and Ole Miss's defense. As long as Georgia's O-line holds up from that pass rush, which they've got a pretty good pass rush. As long as that holds up, Georgia.
Yeah. Chaos is really nice, right?
You can't.
If you're talking about chaos, could you imagine the number 2 and 3 teams both losing in the same week? Don't know if it's ever happened before. Not in the CFP era, probably.
Probably not in the CFP era. Maybe 2007.
Georgia has trouble with mobile quarterbacks.
Oh, God.
Have trouble with mobile quarterbacks. Look at it. Auburn, Missouri, both very close games. Mobile quarterbacks. Jackson Dart, pretty mobile quarterback. Led the team in rushing for most of the year. Till Quinshon Judkins got back. And Georgia's had a whole lot of trouble stopping the run. Very high-powered offense, Ole Miss has. Georgia's dealing with a lot of injuries on the defense. Dalen Everett seems to be a liability at the corner spot. It's very blasphemous what I'm about to say. It feels very blasphemous as a Georgia fan, right? No. Georgia's winning this game, brother. I don't care what you say. Georgia's winning this game. Alright?
You actually had me.
I actually had you for a second.
Yes, you did.
No, ain't no way. Georgia's winning this football game.
Oh boy.
You're about to have a panic attack there.
No, I was like, oh my gosh, what is he fixing to do? I can't tell if he's serious or not.
No, Georgia's winning this game. I think it'll be another close one. I think it'll be like Missouri. I think it'll be probably another 9-10 point win, but Georgia's winning the game.
Yep. Okay.
Oh God. Okay.
Oh, God.
That was nice. To hear the sheer panic in your voice as I'm telling you every reason Georgia should lose this game, but they still won't because Georgia is the most talented team in the country.
Yes.
Okay. Well, hey, listen. Did you know the Big Show's last officially sanctioned match in WWE was for the WWE Championship?
I mean, yes. Yeah, the COVID WrestleMania. Did you know that I'm a certified Pokemon master in multiple regions? You got your weird facts, I got mine. Let's go.
Okay.
Silver Conference champ right here, boy.
Good lord. Okay. Well, we will see you guys next Tuesday. Have a good night.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the Any Given Day podcast. Make sure to subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. You can find us under the name Any Given Day Podcast. Stay updated with our latest episodes and insights. And don't forget, the next episode will be out Tuesday, where we will review some of the big games from this weekend. Until then, keep the spirit of the game alive, and remember, in this sport, anything can happen on any given day. See y'all in the next play.